Hey, what's up, Zach here, and today I've got the Yonex Sonicage Plus. Let's get into them. And since over the last few years, the Sonicage has been the one Yonex shoe that I haven't tested on this channel, Yonex asked if I would come out to the West End Tennis Club with professional tennis player Outsole, who actually plays in the Sonicage, to test them out versus all the other models that I've already cut open. So thanks Yonex for bringing me out here to sponsor this video and give a look at the Sonicage versus really every other shoe in the Yonex lineup. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Now, starting off in the uppers, these really remind me of the Outsole as well as the Fusion Rev, almost kind of put together. It is a big piece of polyurethane upper going all the way to the midfoot of the shoe. And then you kind of have this kind of hybrid polyurethane and then textile is stitched all the way across the heel counter as well as then right up here into the ankle collar. So there actually is a lot of reinforcement that actually goes all the way underneath of the shoe too, where the gusset of these things is super padded. I mean, there is a ton of padding all the way from the midfoot on. And I'm honestly not sure why I never mentioned the padded gusset before, but going back and looking in all the cut open shoes, they all have it. Every single Yonex shoe's got the entire padded gusset. Now that is such a small tweak that makes such a big difference in terms of just overall feelings of comfort in the uppers, especially because all these shoes have some major component of polyurethane in the uppers. Now look at these things on the breathability test. The Yonex Sonicage heats up 132.2 degrees. Actually, the Outsole heats up the least at 109.6. The Eclipsean is next in line, only heats up a little bit over 111 degrees. But on average, Yonex shoes heat up 120.7 degrees, which for a shoe that has all that padding in the gusset of the shoe, all that polyurethane around it, that is kind of incredible, at least to me, because some other polyurethane upper shoes I've seen have had some real issues in terms of heating, because like I said, it just traps it. But more interesting than the average heating, I think, is the breathability mapping of all these shoes. Now, number one, I think it's a miracle that any fog gets out of any polyurethane upper shoe. Look at the Outsole, fog's just blown out of these. The Sonicage fog is blown out of these. On the Eclipsean, you see more fog is coming out proximally around the tongue as well as in the Fusion Rev. And that's why I always said polyurethane uppers for tennis and pickleball, especially outdoor basketball too, but tennis and pickleball, they're number one, the easiest type of uppers to make, but also the hardest. Easiest in that the concept is easy, right? You want a shoe that is durable, that'll last, especially for the modern game, sliding around and everything. Then yeah, as well as for blunt containment, I should say, just being able to contain the foot while you're making such hard cuts, especially on the pro level. But it's also the hardest because, like I said, it's hard to get a polyurethane upper to feel like something that's a more buttery textile upper. And that's why with the Yonex line having that padded gusset plus just the material science in the uppers to make these flowing lines of polyurethane. I know that, some of it is for decoration and some of it's to make the shoe look a little bit slicker. But if you look at where all the bend points and all the break points of that polyurethane is, and when you bend the shoe, you can see it's made to make that polyurethane a lot more comfortable and feel like a normal textile upper. So the fact that all these Yonex shoes have some, really large component of polyurethane in them is no accident. It is the best material for tennis and pickleball on outdoor asphalt and concrete courts, as well as, for outdoor basketball. You're stomping on people's feet, people are, tramping all over you, you're kind of getting into foot-to-foot combat on a really, really unforgiving outdoor asphalt court. Yeah, it's the best material, at least in my opinion, for those applications. It's just getting it to number one, breathe. Number two, not, trap heat like crazy. And number three, not bend and snap and have really awkward break points on your foot. That's the real feat of engineering. Hey, getting into the midsole teardown, this was nuts. I've never seen this on a Yonex shoe before, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Number one, you actually do have two shanks on these things. Yonex was really milking the shank score on these ones. You have, number one, bottom-loaded double thickness shank that actually does run into the forefoot. It has two little leaflets that go into the forefoot. I really like this because it's kind of latticed, so it does have some flexibility to it, but it's also really thick and stout. So I really like that. And then you can see the carbon fiber shank through the bottom of it. That is just a very thin shank that's going more medial to lateral. And that is kind of in the distal midfoot. That is going to create a little bit more of a springboard effect that is going to protect the foam in the forefoot more if you were up on the balls of your foot. So that plus the power cushion in the forefoot does give it quite a bit of protection there if you're staying up on the balls of your foot, which is interesting. I think the craziest part of this shoe is the bounce height test, because there is power cushion plus in the rear foot as well as in the forefoot. And we know in most Yonex shoes, that power cushion is meant for shock absorption, shock absorption, shock absorption. I mean, this thing could disperse energy, I swear, from a meteor falling to the earth. But on the bounce height test on these ones, the rear foot got 39 centimeters of bounce height, which is just unheard of from Power Cushion Plus. It just shows you that they can dial in the properties of Power Cushion Plus if they want to. And then in the forefoot, got a little bit more standard, that came down to 30 centimeters. That just shows you there are so many different ways to construct a midsole, even in the same line of shoes. You know, you want more pop, go with the Sonicage or the Outsole. The Outsole, because of the prong shank with those leaflets in the forefoot, those little bits of carbon fiber that, yes, I'm not sure why that video got the response in the comments, because I said that shank and the way it offloaded the heel felt like the GP Turbo. I still contend that. I still say when I put that shoe on, the feeling in the heel as well as the feeling of launch feels very similar to the GP Turbo, but that's an aside. That's my fight with people in the comment section. But, you know, also you look at the Sonicage, and the Sonicage does a very similar job to the Outsole in terms of pop. It does it in a completely different way. The Outsole is like this feat of engineering and this super creative type way to get launch in the shoe, whereas the Sonicage does it in a very simple manner, just a little bit of a longer, you know, terrace type shank on the bottom, and then a small carbon fiber leaflet right under the proximal metatarsal heads where you're really gonna pop off your foot. So they both accomplish the same goal. One does it with a little bit more, you know, razzle dazzle. The other one does it with a little bit more of a simple design. But on the opposite side of that, if you want more low to the ground feel, more of a shock absorbing feel, then go with one of the two lines of shoes like the Fusion Rev line or the Eclipsean line that has more of a foam-based midsole and shank setup that give you all that low-to-the-ground prowling feel as well as a ton of shock absorption. The way they use the midsole foam also doesn't feel like you're pummeling through the ground. So really, like I said, it's the same materials in a lot of the shoes, just used in unique and different ways. Now getting into the outsole tread, this is a pretty wide decoupling of the outsole tread. You do have one pod in the rear foot and then the forefoot. Interesting thing is though, it's not flipped. You get more, it's not flat delta pattern, kind of more herringbone, but it is not as chunky as the lateral side. What's interesting though is I would have really liked that Yonex has been doing is they've basically just been raising and lowering the levels of the herringbone in different patterns, which I've found has really increased grip without doing anything different to the tread. One more reason I think Yonex personally has the best outsole rubber on the market. No one paid me to say that. I've been saying this forever. But yeah, I mean, just like I said, one more little thing that's just a little, you know, I mean, it's not huge innovation here, right? It's just a little idea, but it does make such a big difference when you're trying to grip. These things do not slide like a flat herringbone tread will. They're much more of a grip and go shoe. But, you know, like I said, you've got the Eclipsean if you want to slide all day long. Once again, grip test ramp slips at 37 degrees, just like every other Yonex shoe. So you're still getting that same rubber compound like all the other ones, that endurance rubber. On the outsole durability test though, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper as well, not even a millimeter damage. Durometer on these is 19.5 again. So I mean, like I said, it's that same endurance rubber you're getting on most Yonex products. It's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. But one thing the Sonicage does have over the rest of the Yonex line shoes is its speed ratio. These things come in at a 3.07. Now, a little bit of that is milked because it does have two shanks. You know, I mean, there's a lot going on in the midsole with these, but it does, you know, it is worth mentioning that although, yeah, you do have this thick bottom-loaded shank with these two leaflets that you can actually see going in the forefoot, that side to side, that horizontal laid carbon fiber shank in the forefoot, yeah, it's thin, but it's got just enough there that it's right under, like I said, the proximal metatarsals to where when you're just pushing off, it does have that just little bit of snap. Are you going to notice that, you know, consciously? Probably not. Are you going to notice that in the end of a third set when you're a little bit tired and, you know, you're just trying to go up for that last little bit of a serve or, you know, trying to track down a ball here or there? To me, I think, yeah, you know, that's when you notice these little things. It's on the margins. Now that versus something like the Fusion Rev where, yeah, the speed ratio is a lot lower because that shoe is more meant, like I said, for side-to-side speed, a little more meant almost to me as like more of a pickleball shoe because the shoe is so malleable. It kind of moves better in that 360-degree radius. Honestly, the Sonicage kind of does the same thing to me. It really kind of allows 360-degree movement. Versus like the Eclipsean, whereas I feel like the Eclipsean, once again, it's more of that kind of does the best of everything. Yeah, the Outsole is a super fast shoe as well. To me, the Outsole is a really fast shoe, like I said, going front to back, whereas the Sonicage and the Eclipseans to me feel like they are super quick no matter what direction you put them in. So really, it kind of depends. What kind of speed do you want? But getting into what is definitely going to be the dividing line on the Sonicage 3 is its fit. These things, number one, have a 21-degree inflare. The caveat to that is that inflare does not start until the distal forefoot. They're actually very straight shoes, all the way up to basically the metatarsal heads. It is really just the forefoot of the shoe that inflares. And also what allows them to be so wide in the forefoot, right, or at least in the midfoot. Because remember, this is a wide version shoe. Now, number one, with that comes a pretty long 29.1 centimeter length, 9.7 centimeter metatarsal width, 10.6 centimeter toe box width, and a toe box taper of 30 degrees. So the thing with these is they're long, they're really wide in the midfoot, and then they're a little bit more tapered in the distal toe box, and that's how they kind of get the wide width in them while still not making them be clunkers, kind of have that same Yonex look to them. And in terms of the snake bitten foot, or any lumps, bumps, bruises, injuries, that's what snake bites means, at least in my dictionary, the crazy dictionary of the Foot Doctor's Act channel. Really, all of these, like I said, they have similar materials in them. So that Power Cushion Plus, I know what it's advertised to do, but at least in terms of me, someone who has played now in all the Yonex shoes and has, really quite a long history of playing in these and experience with them, to me, Power Cushion Plus, its main attribute is that it's an insulator. It insulates your foot against very, very unforgiving courts, whether that be tennis, pickleball, or to me, honestly, especially in outdoor basketball, because it allows the midsole to not be so super stacked high to where you're losing ground feel, which can then, make you unstable. It allows you to get a little bit close to the ground without pummeling through it. I know I talk about that a lot in all my videos, but it bears repeating that even a thin slab of that Power Cushion, even what I think is the best use case of it as a strobo board here in the Outsole, really does insulate your foot against the ground. And if you're putting an orthotic in these shoes, especially in something like the Eclipsean, a low profile orthotic in the Eclipsean, I think gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you that side-to-side containment, that side-to-side stability, but then all of the trappings, of a more protective maximalist shoe, just because the Eclipsean is so well balanced, right? Fits an orthotic so well. I'd say in terms of the Sonicage, the one thing I would say is if you are a wider foot and want that shoe, if you don't have bulkier ankles, or you don't have a more high volume heel, I should say, then I would wear a little bit more of a high volume sock or double sock that'll help keep you in the rear foot of that shoe. If you're wearing the standard version of it, it's not an issue. It locks around the foot. Really, a narrow or medium foot, just fine. But like I said, if you are a wide foot going with the wide version and you're a shorter footed person, like I said, that'd be the only thing I'd watch out for in terms of in terms of fit of that shoe. But so in terms of performance of the Sonicages versus the rest of the line of shoes, like I said, to me, the Sonicage is kind of the tweener shoe, right? It does just as well pop in front to back as it does side to side because of that double shank setup. But at least for me, in terms of the Yonex lineup, if I had to say which one was my favorite, it's the one I've got on. That's the Eclipsean, and that's just because, like, to me, I don't have to worry about rolling my ankle. I'm top heavy, unlike Karu, so I kind of like to have a little bit more stability side to side. Interesting thing is he kind of said the same thing, that the Eclipsean is, like, it seems like the most high performance, but
I kind of like the 80 cells a little bit more, to be honest. There's something about, I just kind of go by feel. They're light, they're comfortable. They seem like they do kind of give you just a little extra spring forward, which I need. I move, I think, decently side to side. I don't have to worry too much about rolling my ankles. I've always been, knock on wood, good with that. So for whatever reason, this just kind of hug my feet the nicest.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's just different strokes, just because him and I both agree that the Eclipsean does seem like it's the best all around, at least in our opinions, it's the best all around shoe out there. He'd still rather be in the AdXL just because it fits him better. Like I said, it is all kind of, different strokes, different folks. And like I said, though, specifically in terms of the Sonicage, I think the reason you're probably in them the most too, it's like they do give the pop that the AdXL gives. It does give a lot of the side-to-side stability the Eclipsean does, and it gives a lot of the kind of 360-degree pickleball movement like something like the Fusion Rev does. It's kind of like that tweener model. And it's kind of weird that I've never reviewed it before, it being such kind of like an all-encompassing type shoe. So let me hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And this party then actually continues over on Crew's channel. That video is going to be up soon, so make sure you subscribe to him up here. And I will have a special playlist with all the Yonex shoes I've reviewed over here. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.
See you guys.